Hello everyone, my name is Remy and I'm going to be presenting my Capstone project, Bridging the Gap Between Procedural Compliance and Personal Accountability. This sounds fancy, but I promise you it's interesting and I'm going to keep it exciting. This project explores how healthcare informatics can be reframed to foster psychological ownership, ultimately improving both staff engagement and patient outcomes. I would like to serve a personal connection. So before going into healthcare, I ended up serving as aircrew member in the Air Force Special Operations Command, or AFSOC for short. In this environment, we operated as a high reliability organization. This is a key term that you'll hear thrown around quite a bit. Now, what I learned from all of this is that compliance keeps you alive, but ownership is what ensures everyone comes home. This was embedded deeply in our history and our culture. As a matter of fact, the Special Operations Command began from a series of devastating errors. So it wasn't just the fact that there were mistakes that were made, but for every mistake made, often there would be deadly consequences. And it was those lives that were lost that helped to fuel that sense of responsibility that we owned. Understanding that the sense of responsibility for every action wasn't just about rules or checklists, but it was about lives and ensuring everybody could come home. So it was this experience itself that ended up sparking my interest in how psychological ownership could transform healthcare. Now, it's well known and well documented that the healthcare system reports a high number of medical errors every year. These errors don't just show up as statistics, they translate into lives lost and billions of dollars wasted. But what if we shifted our mindset? What if we took the same principles that drive success in high reliability organizations, industries where failure is not an option, and applied them directly to healthcare? If airlines can achieve near zero tolerance for errors, why shouldn't we in healthcare aspire to the same? Imagine the lives we could save. Imagine the resources we could preserve. The challenge isn't whether it's possible, the challenge is whether we have the will to adopt that same relentless focus on accountability, ownership, and reliability. In healthcare, we rely heavily on electronic health records, checklists, and audits to ensure compliance. These systems are essential for maintaining safety, consistency, and regulatory standards, and they provide a necessary framework for clinical practice. However, while they help us follow the rules, they often stop short of fostering the deeper sense of responsibility that comes from personal investment. Compliance ensures that tasks are completed, but it doesn't always guarantee that individuals feel accountable for outcomes. In many cases, the very tools designed to support safety can unintentionally reduce engagement, treating people as box checkers rather than active partners in care. What's missing is true ownership, the mindset that drives motivation, pride, and accountability beyond the minimum requirements. The result is often disengagement, burnout, and widening gaps in accountability. When people feel like they're only checking boxes, motivation erodes and the sense of purpose that drives quality care begins to fade. This project poses a critical question. Can we reimagine informatics not just as a tool for compliance, but as a catalyst for psychological ownership? If systems were designed to inspire pride, accountability, and a true sense of contribution, then compliance would no longer feel forced. It would emerge naturally as the byproduct of engaged, motivated professionals committed to safer outcomes. My thesis is that psychological ownership is the critical missing link between compliance and accountability. Compliance alone ensures the rules are followed, but it doesn't guarantee that people feel invested in the outcomes. True accountability only emerges when individuals experience a sense of ownership, when they believe the success of the work is personally meaningful to them. This is where informatics must be reframed. Instead of being seen or designed as surveillance tools that monitor performance, they should serve as catalysts that strengthen autonomy, competence, and belonging. When systems empower professionals to make meaningful contributions, recognize their expertise, and connect them to a bigger purpose of their work, they transform from checklists into engines of motivation. The result is not just compliance, but a workforce driven by intrinsic motivation, genuine collaboration, and ultimately, safer and higher quality outcomes. My research focused on 4 key areas: psychological ownership, that emerges when people feel autonomy, competence, and belonging; the difference between compliance, which is externally driven, and accountability, which is internalized; and how poorly designed informatics systems contribute to burnout, while participatory design fosters engagements. Finally, theories such as self-determination theory and the job characteristics model, which explain how ownership can be intentionally cultivated. From this foundation, I developed a solution with 3 key elements: role-specific dashboards that give each staff member clarity and visibility into outcomes; bidirectional feedback loops so that staff can provide input and leadership can respond; and participatory design strategies, which embed staff in shaping the systems they use. Altogether, these transform compliance from an external demand into the byproduct of professional pride. My recommendation for implementation starts with balancing metrics with recognition. Data should not just be used to measure performance. It should highlight contributions. Next, customize the dashboards to fit the needs of the specific roles. Finally, create continuous feedback loops that keep communication flowing in both directions. My recommendations also include cultivating leadership and culture. This is key. Leaders must model ownership, provide ongoing training to reduce digital literacy gaps, and finally, align informatics tools with organizational goals like patient safety and staff retention. That way they feel relevant and meaningful. In summary, compliance is not the same as accountability. Compliance ensures that minimum standards are met, but accountability requires a deeper sense of responsibility, an internal drive that cannot be mandated. What bridges that gap is ownership. When informatics are reframed as tools for engagement rather than instruments of oversight, they have the power to transform workplace culture. Instead of fostering burnout and disengagement, they can cultivate motivation, pride, and collaboration. In turn, this shift strengthens patient outcomes and restores meaning to the work of healthcare professionals. The challenge we face is not the technology itself. The tools already exist. The real challenge lies in how we design, implement, and use those tools. If we choose to use them as drivers of ownership rather than mere monitors of compliance, we can close the gap, empower our workforce, and create safer, more resilient systems of care. So my background in AFSOC showed me that ownership prevents mission failure. In healthcare, ownership prevents harm and saves lives. When clinicians feel accountable, not because of rules, but because they see those outcomes as their own, errors like poor handoffs decline and engagement rises. That is the power of psychological ownership. These are some of my key references that supported my research, including photos and recent studies in informatics, organizational psychology, and motivational theory. Thank you very much for listening, and I appreciate your time.